Okay, we're all here. Okay, so in this here training, I'm gonna discuss law of contracts, and not necessarily, I'm not gonna review the contract, step by step. I'm gonna show you how you can yourself improve your knowledge on contract structures and meanings on it. So kind of, because if I review the contract, section by section, we'll be here all day. Because I can get in real depth with it. So I'll show you my methods, how I do it. You all know that I'm quite well versed in legal aspects, right? And I'll show you how I've done it since I was a cop and everything, okay? So you can really kind of understand how it's structured and how it works, and it will really help you with your classes. Understanding more than just filling in the blanks, okay? Understanding the structure of the document will give you the wisdom to effectively fill in, present, and explain the documents to your clients, okay? Because it's one thing to just, you see the image there to the right, it brings back memories, right, of like elementary school, you see? Filling in the blanks. I get so, not just here, and of course nobody in this office, okay, but New Mexico, they have the same things, right? It's fill in blanks, do check boxes. Their contract is a lot longer than ours, but it's still the same thing because we have amendments and theirs, everything is just in one form. But it's still the same, fill in the blanks and stuff. And what I hear a lot is agents that, well, they just memorize what that blank needs to have, not what the document in its entirety means. Okay? Does it make sense? So when you fill in the blank, like the bird, above the trees, it's the bird flies above the trees, right? But because you see the whole thing in it. So it's more complex with the contract itself, or any document, but it's understanding the whole thing. So whenever you explain it, and when you understand how it works, you can kind of predict the future of what can happen. You see if it makes sense. I'll explain more as we get more in depth. Who knows what this is?
Airplane.
It's a cockpit to an airplane, right? So this is a major commercial airplane here, and it's sitting on the runway, and it's getting ready to take off. Now, if you get put in there, in the cockpit there, and you say, what do I do next to get off the ground? The instructor can tell you, this is the throttle, push this forward, and when you get enough speed, pull this back and you'll get in the air, right? And you say, okay, cars work like that. Car go fast, car stop, car move.
Airplane crash.
Right? Yeah, okay. Now, why would airplane crash? Because there's a lot more revolving around the operation of this equipment than a car on the roadway, right? So a pilot, the reason why a pilot cannot pilot an airline like this until maybe 15 to 20 years of flight experience is because he has to understand not just how the airplane reacts to different, wind shears and environment and everything, but he has to know exactly the aerodynamics of it and the wind force to get it up in the air. If you pull back too early, it's gonna bounce on the runway and it's gonna crash. Take off too late and you'll run out of runway. The functions is the same, but you have to understand why you think that they have to. I looked up flight school. I took flight classes for the private pilot, but I looked up the actual flight school for commercial, and they even teach you weather. You have to have a certain knowledge of meteorology because you have to understand how the weather affects the airplane. You see, it's not just push levers. You see, and a lot of people think that, for example, a car, I took my truck to this auto mechanic shop a while back, my Bronco, the classic one, and they had a new car there that was only a couple years old, and the engine was frozen on it. And I said, how come this girl brought this car if it's under warranty? I mean, it's pretty new. And he goes, warranty's not covering it. Reason why, she never changed the oil.
Oh my goodness.
Never changed the oil line. And I was there. I heard her arguing with the mechanic. He goes, and she goes, I don't understand why. It never leaked. It didn't leak oil. You see, it's funny, but in her mind, she's like, why should I have to replace it? Mm-hmm. You know, the oil's still in there. You know, like refrigeration, you never have to change your refrigerant. It should never leak. Mm-hmm. You see? But she didn't understand the mechanics of it. Oil starts to decompose, right? We know it's pretty common knowledge, but a lot of people don't know that. People think airplane flies because if it goes fast enough, the air will catch it and it'll just stay up. You know? Some people, they see it that way, you know? And it's just like, you know, in a car, if you have, everybody knows how to drive. Everybody that's driving knows how to drive. Right? And you see your faces, you're like, whatever, you know, people are stupid. But there's a difference. They know how to drive, but they choose to drive incorrectly. Mm-hmm. They choose to drive recklessly, but they know how to drive. That's what makes it irritating. Because you're like, you stupid, you know, different words for a different part of the day. Okay, professional, come on, work with me. Okay, but you know, okay, but you know, that's what makes it frustrating. That they know how to do it, but they still choose to do it wrong. Now, you have a Honda Civic or something, and it's just a normal, you know, normal little car, and you get into like a Dodge Hellcat with 700 horsepower or a Mustang GT500 that's really high performance. Why do you think insurance is charged so much and you put a teenager insured for that car?
Because they don't know how to drive.
Because they can't, it's too much car for them. They don't understand the sheer force of those engines. And it's not the same as just push go, push stop. You push go like that, all of a sudden it'll take off like the airplane. Yeah. You know, and it'll fly into buildings and stuff. You see? So understanding what you're working with, what you're operating, that just makes you, it makes you a lot better at your job and what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish. Instead of just getting from point A to point B. Some agents, you know, there are a lot that I talk to and they say, I really don't know what that part of the contract is. I just know that this is what I need to fill in. And they've been successful for 20 years or so doing it that way. You know, but do you want to be like that? Some are fine, you know, I just get by. You know, and then that's why I don't respect when somebody says, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't care how long you've been doing it. I don't care. Because you've been doing it wrong for 30 years. And I'll tell them. When I discover a mistake, I tell them, you've been doing it wrong for this long. And of course they get all, you know, they get all mad, but, you know, hey, okay? So, you know, the way I learn it, you know, so how do I learn to do this better? Okay? You know, first, you must have a desire to be better, to be all you can be. I didn't know that, you know, in the Navy, just where I want to be. Okay. But when I was typing it, I was like, okay, whatever. But, you know, the thing is that you have to have that desire. Hey, I want to be better at this. I want to learn. I want to improve. You know, and it's always a learning process. This job is, that's one thing about this. It's not factory work. You know, everything is different. Every transaction is going to be different. You know, the forms are always changing. And if you don't stay on top, it's like legal, like law stuff. It's always a practice. That's why lawyers practice law. That's why doctors practice medicine. It's never perfection because it's fluid. It's changing. It's, you know, with people, it's always going to be changing. Mm-hmm. You have to be passionate to continue to learn, not just coming to a classroom. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, of course we're here to help, okay? And we're always going to be doing courses and, you know, coming here and doing this every week and stuff like that. But it's just like a college course, you know, or even maybe high school or something. But if you go just to the class and expect to learn everything in just that class setting, you're really not going to learn much. That's why there's homework. That's why there's reading text. That's why there's reading the books. and doing outside research. That's why the professors tell you you need to write a term paper on this subject. That's why to get a PhD, you need to have that whole thesis, the big elaborate thing, and present it to a board, because it's your own research, it's your own understanding of the subjects. Teaching yourself to be better will build your confidence in no way that I ever could, or that Maria can. Okay, then nobody can. When you learn to teach yourself and you expand your understanding of something, it is a very good feeling. You are your own competition. Okay, you know, you're not competing with other people, you're competing with yourself. I had an agent take time and initiative to teach yourself. I have an agent in Las Cruces last week that I went and I was doing an inspection for. And this guy, he was quoting everything back to me about inspection process. And I haven't worked with him before. And I told him, I said, did you used to be in construction or something? Because you know an awful lot about this process. And then he said, you know, I've been in he just moved to the area. He goes, I've been in real estate for a long time, and my challenging part was always the inspections and objections or repair requests. You know, like, because you see the report, you're like, what the hell does this mean? You know, I don't understand. Is this a serious issue? Or what does this mean that the outlet's not wired right? What is this? So he was frustrated, and he said that's where I struggled the most. And a lot of agents do, because that part is foreign to them. You see, they deal with contracts, not construction. So he started reading books, and he started doing all his research. He even took some inspection courses, because you can get some free ones that are available to realtors. You know, and I can even send you a link through my association. They should allow you to take some. And that's why, because he wanted to expand his knowledge in it, so he can better represent his people, or explain it. Not necessarily representing, but just explaining. Yeah, because just explaining it gives you that satisfaction, and it gives you that good rapport.
And not guessing.
Not guessing, or just telling, well, just call the inspector, you know, or like, you know what, that's not my field. You know, it's like, you know, when I know how to do ceilings. You know, I was taught how to do them, and it just basics. You know, you can do a one-line ceiling. You know, that one-liner that just shows you just the lines. State law doesn't. We're required to provide a CMA to your client, right, to your buyer or whatever. But it doesn't say how extensive it needs to be. It just needs to be some kind of market analysis. You see, but me, in my challenging mind, I say I want to know how to make it very accurate, how to make it the best quality that I can get. You see, so that's why I researched it. You know, I started looking them up more. I read this big thick textbook that I got online that describes the whole appraisal process. I got you saw the formulas that I came up with, that how I teach the CMA course. You know, and I got that by looking at other appraisal reports and dissecting them. And you know, when I changed the formula from 40% to 30%, it's because of the new appraisal reports. I made my own CMA, but using their comparables. And when I wasn't getting the same number, I said, how are they getting it? So I actually had to bust out that algebra crap that we had to learn in high school, and it came in handy. You know, I said, hey, you know, and I figured it out. And when I hit the same number that was on that appraisal report, it is an excellent feeling. It's like I cracked that code, you know? And then in turn, I come and I can show you all. You see, but that's the resolve. You have to have that initiative that I want to learn. I want to not just rely on a legal update course that Trek requires. Or, you know, my CEs, you know, there's some agents that's the only, well, I never took a course on that. We don't have to learn that. You know, you know, you need to have, if you want to be better, you need to have more initiative.
teach yourself?
A teacher is one who makes himself progressively unnecessary. Mhm. And I'm not saying don't bother us anymore. I'm not saying like, hey, you guys need to start being more self-sufficient. That's not what I'm trying to say. You know, where it's my job, and I enjoy teaching. You know, Maria obviously she enjoys because she's also a professor, right? You know, so we're always going to be here to teach. And if you ever have a problem, you know, we're not going to say, hey, go learn it, go look it up. You know, I've never done it to any of you. You know, but the thing is, you know, we're a resource for you. It says, but I want you to be able to expand, you know, to do more, you know, to learn it more. You know, is it making sense the way I'm saying it? You know, it's like the way I think is, okay, I just took this, but now I want to go more in depth into it. You know, to really fully understand, because the worst thing is I don't want to be asked something that I don't have an answer for. It's just like in construction, you know, that's why I was so good when I was in the police department. Because I studied the law so hard that my cases always got prosecuted. And I never had dismissals. Because the worst feeling is, because when the way it works, real briefly, is you can't just get arrested and be put in jail. It doesn't work. You can be arrested, but you cannot just be put in jail without a judge approval or a district attorney approval. The jail will not take you, because then it's literally an unlawful arrest. So what it is when the cop arrests, they have to present the case to either the district attorney or a judge. The judge either signs a warrant or district attorney says, yeah, I'll prosecute that guy. Now here's your booking number, and go take him to jail. That's how that works. Okay, so a lot of cops, some of them get laughed at because you'll get a reputation, just like agents. When you get a contract, you're like, oh man, this agent's horrible. Let's see how this is gonna go. You know, and of course you don't want that reputation. You know, but when you get others that come, you know, mine, I said I want to know it very good so I can enforce any bit of the law. You know, and whenever I went to, there was a new district attorney that came in. Well, they're all assistants, like they're in the office, and I walked in to present a case, and they judged the case by the officer. They'll say, well, get your sergeant in here. I need to talk to your supervisor and to see if you really have your facts straight. But when I would walk in, they say, oh, I know who you are. Like, well, don't worry, you don't need, because you have to present like I'm presenting to you right now. You have to tell them, this is what happened, sir, you know, this and that, this what, and they'll say, okay, go ahead and write it up, and then I'll proofread it, and then I'll see if I'll give you a booking number or not. And then at that time, you have your guy sitting in the holding cell. So when I would walk in, they would say, oh, I already know who you are. Here's your number, just write it up and take it. You see, and that's a very good feeling that you have a reputation like that. Because they know that I went above and beyond to think like a lawyer does. To think how a defense attorney thinks. How can that other, because he's going to get a lawyer, this guy that I just arrested for attempted murder or something, he's going to get a lawyer. How can that lawyer beat my case? That's how I think. And that makes you better. When you think, if I word the contract this way, or I put these terms, can it backfire, or can it go a little sideways? But to understand that, you have to understand the whole document in its entirety. Mm-hmm. And some people don't want to. Some people just want to do the basics, you know, the very standard basics, and that's why even military's that way. They don't want to promote. You know, some cops they don't want to promote at all. You see? But that's what it is. You know, a teacher is I want to show you how to learn more on your own. Where it's a continuous learning process. Not just solely rely on just coming here or your CE courses or something like that. It's learning it and how to get a better understanding of it. Mm-hmm. So now I'm gonna get the contract up. And then I'm not gonna explain, where's my mouse? There it is. Okay. I am not gonna explain it, okay, but I'm gonna You'll see. Okay, it's a little bit odd, but you know your parties and all that. Okay, that's pretty obvious. Okay, and your property and all that. Now, like the improvements and the accessories and all that. See, when you understand, you have to understand contract structure. Okay, so. Oh, it's a little odd. I didn't plan this right. You know, so when you see contract structure, this is all together. Number two, so it's done in the whole document, and then section, and then subsections. So A, B, C, these are subsections of this section. So all this, until it goes down to number 3, is all property. You see? So that's how you start breaking it down. So the land, this is the description of the house, right? Of the property, and then improvements and accessories. So each one is not individual, it's all combined to property. That's how legal text is written. That's how law is written. If you get a criminal law book or civil law book, you'll have section, you've heard it, you know, property code, section 502, subsection A, you know, paragraph 3. You know, all that is in the main section, just part of that. So when you see improvements, accessories, all this is part of this. So when you explain it to buyers, you know, whenever I do the contracts, I'll tell them, you know, I'll explain everything. I explain the whole thing to them. You know, unless they just don't want to, but usually they do. And when I'm done, I'll say, do you have any questions? Like, I think you pretty much explained it. And the only question they really have is, so this is what I'm paying, right? That's all they really care, you know? But, and you know, I know that when I'm telling them all this stuff in here, I know they're like, well, okay, whatever, and it's just going right over. But what it is sticking is this dude knows. This dude knows this document. He knows his job. So they're not gonna stray away, or they're not gonna have doubt in their mind that I know what I'm doing. You know, I'm not just filling in the blanks. That I know the document in its entirety. Most agents, they're like, they'll just put this and okay, let's scroll down and let's see what, okay, I don't need to put nothing there. And then you see, now, and I understand, as you're doing more offers or you do a lot of contracts, it is gonna be that way. And that's fine, I'm not saying you have to read it while you're doing it, but do have the understanding what it is, you know, and the thing is that reading this or studying it right before you have to do an offer, that's not going to work because you're in a hurry to do that offer. Okay, so doing this is like giving you an assignment. Hey, you have a term paper or you have a major unit exam that we're going to do on Monday next week. Like if this was a college course, but don't wait till Sunday night to study, to cram. You might pass, but will you really know it? You're just trying to commit to memory how to pass the exam, but not to learn the subject. So things that would help, how I studied this, and not just because of police background, okay? Because remember, I did more criminal. This is more civil. So one thing is like this. See, Texas real estate contracts. You know, you can get any of these books from eBay, Amazon, couple bucks. Doesn't have to be a brand new one either. You know. So not much. This read it, okay?
Is that an audiobook?
Audible?
Or Audible, sorry.
They could be. You know, now.
Texas what?
Just Texas real estate contracts. There's a whole bunch. You know, you can look at this and you'll have all the new versions. Now, law books, I don't like doing Audible. That's fine if you do. I've listened to law books Audible, but the reason why is because they will have examples in them. Legal stuff always has, you know, other documents like it has, what is that, amendments. You see, addendums. I think that's whatever it is, another form. You know? Okay? And then it'll start showing the sections on it. You see, so that's how they studied it. Now, you have all these legal terms in the contract itself. You see? And the way I perfected it, reading law, interpretation of legal text. I mean, pretty thick book. This was written by And Antonin Scalia. He's a Supreme Court judge. Yes. This book was very good. This really, I thought I knew my stuff. This opened my mind even more. You know, and Supreme Court judge, right? You know, but that's what I'm saying. You know, it does take time. It's a long book. It does. But that's why I'm saying you can't just learn something right before you need to do it. You know, I take a couple hours a day or so, you know, in between my Netflix watching or whatever, and I want to, you know, I need to read something because I said it's a constant learning. I'll probably read this book again because I finished it a little while back. Okay, and you're gonna come out with terms like reservations or exclusions, you know, or what's really the accessories, you know, stuff like that. Okay. Black's Law Dictionary. See? Yeah, these are at the library. You know, and I have a library of books. You can ask Maria. I have a lot of books. Now, all these are, this one I bought. I bought it because it's a dictionary. You know, checking out the library. Dictionary, you need it when you need it. You don't just sit there and read a dictionary.
Yeah.
But you could. The thing of, and why law dictionary instead of a regular dictionary? Because this will literally explain the thing in its contents for legal purpose. I'll give you an example.
Well, just to interrupt, there's a real estate dictionary too.
Oh yeah?
Realtors.
Oh, well, I need that one.
Yeah.
Well, you see?
My
Look.
students are taking out their dictionaries for real estate when I'm saying, do you guys know, hold on, Miss Lydia.
Oh.
But you see, look, that's a perfect example.
I've seen them, they're like really initiative because I already scared them. You know, that's the exams.
Yeah, but you see that, and then when they discover themselves what the answer is, not only is it a good feeling, you'll remember it more.
Yeah,
Then if she would have just said, well, accessory is just, you know, it's like the window stuff and you know that, and like, oh, okay. But when you study it yourself, which it already tells you what it is on the form, but when you study it yourself, it'll stick a lot better. Like this one, I just real quick, it has real property, real estate law, and it has everything about title. What is abstract of title? You know, absolute title? What is that? You know, I was like, what the hell? Well, I read it, and it's pretty interesting. You know, and it's like, you know, by adverse possession, by accreditation, ascension, all that stuff. So that it has a lot of good info. You know, if you do decide that you want to splurge in there and get a dictionary, try to get an old one, not the newest one. For one, they're a lot cheaper. Law words don't change. But this one is 1891 to 1991 version. They come out about, they're like 50 to 100 year spans. You know, doesn't mean it was published in 1891. It just means it has the terms that were used since then. And the reason I don't like the new ones is because they've been liberalized. You know, they did take a lot of words out, and you can see it. They even say it. So, but Black Law's dictionary can help you a lot. Now, if you don't want to get the book, I like it because I like books. I like to have a physical book, and it's a lot. I can search it a lot quicker than a Google. There is a Black Law's dictionary book online. You could just Google it and you can use it for free. And it'll have it, but you have to know the exact term that you're looking up, and it'll give you everything. So you know, there's ways to also do it for free, you know. But I just like text or an actual book. Mm-hmm. Where's my mouse? I can't see the mouse on that. Okay. You see, but okay, you know, like sales price and all that. Now, to understand you. On this, I'll go into just a little bit because you do have to read it. And the new term here is the cash portion of the sales price. Okay, so one thing about this is hard money loans. Okay, because I watch all the broker lawyer committee meetings from Trek. And most people are like, that's boring as hell. It'll even say how many people viewed it, and it's usually like 18 or 20 people from the whole state that'll view it, and I'm one of them. Okay. Now the reason why is because I want to see the lawyer committee on what they're proposing to add to the forms. And this was one of the things. I saw the arguments that they were having to add that term, cash portion of sales price. It was like a 2-hour debate, you know? And the reason why is because you need to read into it, okay? Like, let me see if I have this thing. I guess not. I might have to pull up there. Okay. I thought I had my laser pointer hits in there somewhere. But cash portion of the sales price. So, you know, this usually you put what the down payment is, right? But it says the term cash portion does not include the proceeds from borrowing of any kind. And this is what the broker lawyers were arguing about. Okay? So before, if you have hard money loan, you can say it was cash, right? Well, it's cash. It's not a conventional style loan. It's hard money. You don't need to know about that. That's my hard money, you know, that I'm getting over here under the table. Okay? But that's not the case. Cash portion does not include a borrowing of any kind. Now, unless it's disclosed in this contract. So how would it work if you read into it? Now let's say if you have a little, you know, issue like, okay, well, what is we know what disclose really means, but if you really want to dig in, I would bust out the dictionary, the Black Law dictionary, and see what it really is. You know, with any kind of word. Proceeds. I want to look up proceeds. That would help me really understand this section. And that's why I'm saying this is what you need to do on your downtime. Not when you're filling it out and you have a buyer waiting to sign it, because that's not going to work. You know, weekends, holidays, whatever. Hey, I'm going to take some time. Let me perfect my contract reading skills here. You see, it's like that. That's how you get really good at this. So in this, for example, because I said I wasn't going to go through it turn by turn, but in this, for example, if it's hard money, in the special provisions, you can write, you know, securing it by hard money. You see, because
so hard money is not. Hard money would be the whole amount of the house. I mean, if you're going to get hard money, you're going to get a loan, hard money, say $200,000.
Yeah. So
when you put it $200,000, if you get hard money.
Yeah. So it's still going to be, you know, you could put it like that, like if it's just cash and then sales some and the hard money. But the remember, hard money usually going to come up with a down payment too. So you'll have down payment, like if it's hard money, let's say 100,000, 20,000 you're putting down payment, just to make math simple, 20,000 because that's cash. Term cash does not include proceeds from borrowing.
Oh.
So 20,000
so
is your
20,000 would be your own.
Yeah,
that's it. From any borrower, any kind of any kind. So third hard money shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Should be on a third party.
Yeah, because it doesn't include from any kind of borrowing. But you see, that's why you research it and so you don't get stuck while you're in a hurry trying to fill it out. See, that's the purpose. That's the purpose of trying to teach yourself all this stuff and constantly review.
Okay, so your 20,000 will be there at cash, but your hard money will be on a third party, like regular loan. Like regular loan.
Yeah, it is a loan.
It is a loan. It's a loan. So.
But what I'm saying is because before, some agents would say, well, it's all cash. It's cash.
Oh.
You know, and they'll just put it all, but in reality, they're doing hard money loan.
Yeah. Okay.
But they're trying to say, and that was coming into effect in the zombie apocalypse because it was getting so competitive, you know, and they were saying, well, I'm paying 100,000 cash. You know, that's just figure number, just so we can make it simple. And it's really not cash. They don't have that money.
Yeah.
They have a hard money lender that's gonna come to the closing with a cashier's check. Here you go, here's the cash.
Oh.
But wait a minute, you're not this guy. You know, well, what does it matter? I'm still paying for the house. Just put it in his name. That's the way it worked. Because that paragraph didn't read that way. It didn't read like that. You know, cash can be cash. Who cares where it's coming from? It's not a conventional loan from a financial institution. It's a private lender. Private lender, they were saying, hey, what do you care? I'm still paying cash. That's why the broker lawyer committee argued so much about changing it. Because it was still deceptive. Because a third party lender, third party is anybody but you. That's third party, right? And legal stuff. Where's my dictionary? Down there somewhere, right? Third party, huh?
Okay, but what if your money is yours, but it's coming from a different entity? Then what?
Oh, but it's still yours.
It's still
You know,
yours.
because the
Yeah, it would
entity
be
is
hard money.
yours. You know?
Uh,
That's
It would
what
be
you're
hard money, right?
Well,
No.
no, okay, let's say,
You just have to have.
let's say you're buying a $500,000 house
Mhm.
and you've got $250 in cash, $250,000 in cash, and $250,000 is gonna come from your 401k.
You still have to disclose it's
Is
not
that
lending.
still-
Yes, because there's
Yeah.
gonna be a delay on when the money's gonna be received. Hence, because usually cash deals.
Well, but see, specifically a 401k, there's stipulations or you have to pay it back. So it's not, you can't just draw
Get it from
everything
the
out of a
source.
401k. You have to pay it back unless you use it for certain things, but,
Actually, it's a
so
loan.
would that be considered,
It's actually, it's a loan. It's
Yeah.
it
you-
is
it's
actually
it's a
a
loan
loan,
that you're
that's what I'm
making
getting
for,
at. Uh-huh.
on yourself
Oh.
with your own, for your own, for
Uh-huh.
1K, you're making a loan to yourself, and as you say, you have to
Yes.
repay and repay with interest and everything.
Exactly.
So it has
So-
to be, it should be, according to what I see there, it's a borrowing kind of, it's any kind of borrowing, so it still is not a completely cash offer.
What
That's
I
what-
heard in there, because they did discuss that in the broker lawyer thing. And they did say that specifically, if you're getting it from some kind of retirement thing or some kind of account like that, you do have to put that it's coming from that.
Okay.
Special provision.
Yeah, because anything, if you put cash, remember, borrowing of any kind.
Mhm.
So 401k, you're borrowing. Look,
Yeah.
like my previous slide that I was saying about teaching and teaching yourself, there you go, used to get pretty frustrated with the finance stuff. And this guy went out and got himself an MLO license so he can learn it. You see, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. You know, I said instead of just, well, you know, you're kind of just learning it on the side, he wanted to go more in depth. So much as he got a license for it. Where is my mouse? Okay. So,
Exactly.
Do you have access to a third party financial, the form?
I can bring it up.
Just, I mean, just to show them what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing it right. Maybe we can have, now that we're talking about the loan
Yeah,
side.
depending
there's-
on the situation, that's why we have special provisions. And the third party is very specific as to what you can and cannot put. Because there's the different selections that we have, it needs to be adequately labeled.
Yeah, because for like 401k and all that, that's a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
here.
Go down, well, that's, it's actually, it's not a conventional, it's not a
No.
VA, the Texas veteran, it's not a FHA VA, USD, reserve fund stamp also. So when I do my hard money, where I put is put it in other financing. That's where I put the hard monies, and I guess the 401k will be other type of financing. That's what I
but
put.
at that point, the 401k, it's very unique because it's your own retirement account.
It is.
It's your retirement account, but the thing is that you have to withdraw it or just be taxed.
Uh-huh.
It's not that you're at an age, depending on the person's age,
Exactly.
where you're at, that you're giving a stipulation of how much you can take out. If not, you will be taxed at that current tax rate
That's right.
at that. So you can put it back so that it replenishes and then you later withdraw it
Mhm.
based on your tax bracket then,
Right.
okay? And then there's penalties that you have, it's like a
Exactly.
10% penalty on top of you withdrawing early on.
Early
Exactly.
would be before, is it 59 years? 59? and a half?
You
So-
have to pay 10%.
10%.
You're below 59.
If you're not
Yeah,
59 and a
but
half,
but
yeah.
but you
59
weigh
and a half.
that if it's a loan for buying a house.
But it has to be just the first house, it can't be like an investment,
Oh.
it has to be like for your own, like
A
your
primary,
your
a primary home.
primary home.
But not the first home, not.
Your primary home.
Your primary.
Not an investment. And usually the person, when they call the HR, they're giving that stipulation. They
Mhm.
know what the money's being, why they're withdrawing, because it's not like right away available.
But it's drawn out as a loan. It's not drawn out as part. I mean, it's not not you're retiring. I mean, you're
You're
requesting,
taking
you're
it
taking
out.
taking out. So it's a
Unless you've
loan.
already
No, no.
dispersed, you're starting to get
Yeah, if you're over 59, I mean, you can
59.
draw from it and no problem. It's you can use it as you wish.
If you want.
And
No
it's-
interest, no.
but it
And
does
you don't
make a
have to
difference.
repay it
It's a
either.
huge difference.
No,
Oh.
no, because it's your money. It's your
After
retirement
that,
money. And when you're over 59, so you're using it as part of your retirement.
It's
But
just
you're
how
before.
how you're gonna receive it and what are the tax benefits of you withdrawing it at that point. So people just depending on their tax brackets or how they're planning to,
Oh.
whether they're gonna roll it over or whatever, it just depends on the individual.
Leases, okay? Most of the time, this stuff you don't even worry about. But do you really know it? Have you looked into it and read about it and what it really is? Okay, looking up natural resources. Okay, what natural resource leases? What is that? Okay, fixture leases. That's starting to come up more.
Mm-hmm.
We have that pretty common in Las Cruces because there's propane tanks. Solar is a big one. Need to be careful with the solar
Those
ones.
are a pain.
Okay.
Aren't they?
Yeah, they really can be. If they're not paid off, and they're not gonna be paid off at closing, they want assumptions, all kinds of stuff. It can be difficult. It's always good to,
And they cannot move the panels.
yeah, and they won't let you remove them and move them somewhere
You
else.
have to keep them,
They have to stay on that property.
keep on, well,
They stay, they sell the
yeah.
property.
So if they're not paid for yet, you have to just continue paying them yourself.
Any
Just
person either assumes the loan
assumes the loan.
or they're gonna be paid off at closing.
Oh.
But you see, like it says on there, the seller is not aware of any leases that affect the property, okay, well, except for if you check it, okay? But after the date, the seller may not, without buyer's consent, okay, create a new lease. So what does that mean? Not install new panels, not get a lease for water softener or a propane tank or anything like that. Or take out a home improvement loan,
Or a roof.
Buyer may not.
yeah, or
I'm
you can
seeing-
finance refrigeration.
Yeah, I'm
Or a
seeing-
roof.
No, I'm seeing leases on refrigeration. Like installing a refrigeration unit. So you have to be careful.
Because they'll do it for rentals.
They'll rent, there's leases now to put refrigeration
Oh,
on your
wow,
home.
just like the solar panels.
Yeah,
Yes.
just like
So
the
why
solar.
would why wouldn't a seller, create a new lease if he's already selling the house?
Because like anything, everybody
It could.
gets excited, okay? You're like, okay, I'm gonna sell my house and somebody comes door knocking at your house and you're like, well, I'll get into that contract. And they decide to
'Cause
put
people
panels on
do-
themselves.
People do some crazy things.
Yes.
Know?
Or go
I
buy
mean,
the
they'll-
car
they'll-
before they buy the house.
Yeah, they'll think, well, if I just get the water softened, I can always transfer it later.
Oh.
Like,
The seller can think that, okay.
yeah, the seller.
But you're, those are, you know what I was thinking about leases, when you're gonna lease a house to
Yeah,
the buyer.
but you see, that's
That's
why
part of
we-
the contract.
that's why you need to read into it.
Yeah.
Because it
I would
seems-
think leases, okay, we're
Rent.
not gonna lease anything, we're never gonna, you don't need to, I don't need to. But leases means, material things that are going to be in there.
Yeah, like that. It's not just that, but it's also residential leases.
So just to raise your
Oh,
hand, when was the
residential,
last
okay,
time that you
the
guys read the
residential.
contract? When was the last time, raise your hands, when was
What?
the last time you read the contract?
the last time we submitted one.
But that was it reading or just filling in the blanks?
Well, because I already know, because that has happened to me a lot of times. When I submit an offer and it has a tenant and I don't check that residential one,
Mm-hmm.
or the other one that says upon closing and funding, but the next one. And so I've learned it. I know it's there. So.
Yeah, and I know that as a group, we went over it last year at the beginning of the year. We broke down each section of the contract. So for those of you that were here, I know we went over it because the contract got modified.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You know, it's one thing to do it in a class, like I'm saying, like we do it in a classroom setting, but when you walk out that door, half the stuff that I said today, you're not gonna remember, and that's okay. I'm not gonna be offended. It's the way it works. There's distractions. I see texts come in, looking down at your phone. A mere looking real quick, you miss a lot of stuff. That's why when I'm talking to some, she knows, okay? When I'm explaining something like seriously, and you look down, I'll stop and I'll wait. And somebody says, you can keep going on this. No, you're not. I'll wait till you put that down so I can keep instructing you. You know, no, it's not. You know, I'm not saying that
Can't do that to us, sorry.
Huh? What'd you say?
But he does it to me.
Because sometimes I'm like, listen, this is how I want my eggs. You know?
Then I'll repeat everything he told me and that from last year, and then I'm like, did I just not listen?
You modified them.
Okay, but you know, like, what was I saying?
You were thinking of breakfast.
Oh, it's lunch now.
Eggs.
Yeah, it's lunch now. But you know, in the classroom setting, that's why I'm saying I'm not gonna explain every single part of it because it's really not gonna do any good. And I'm not saying that you're not good learners or nothing, because I wouldn't learn like that either. I would get a basic understanding, but if you just rely on that, and then next time you need to make an offer, especially if it's in haste, you know, you show your buyer, let's do it right now, and you know it's a hot listing, you're just gonna gun it to fill in the blanks, and hey, sign it quickly. And if they have questions, well, what does this part mean? Well, hey, what does this mean? Like, dude, just sign it and I'll explain later. Don't worry. You know, I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You know, and instead of when you study it without haste, or you don't need to be filling it in, then you'll really learn it a lot better. You see? And then when we have these classes, when we come together, you know, as the teaching stuff, it will make a lot more sense. It's kind of like when you say, when a teacher or professor says, hey, for tonight's homework, read chapter 8, and tomorrow we're gonna have group discussion. And it's a bad feeling when you go into that class and they call on you, what did you think about this? Oh, shit, I don't know. Well, you know, Shakespeare's, you know, English class, remember that? You know, Shakespeare, Macbeth, all that stupid reading. And you come in and talk about it and you don't know, you know, but when you know, then you learn it even more. You see, you learn a lot better.
Break it down, you guys.
Yeah.
You know, when I had a presentation on the contract, I had it from one of my brokers. He literally, we were there for an hour, and he went through each section and he highlighted and gave it a point, like what was the synopsis, and he made it funny, and that's how I learned how to do it. So every time I go back and read it, I capture something new, and then I do a quick synopsis. Like I said, you know, this is where you leave, you know, the first section, you know, obviously you're not going to tell your people that you live on 5 block, lot 37, they'll think you're crazy. You live on 2020 Main Street, and people remember that. Like I go through every section of the contract. I can tell it to you because I've taken time to break it down in a way that people can understand, and I understand the significance of every part of it, but I can do an understanding of the stuff. Because if you read that whole thing, you're going to lose people. Oh, I don't know that I want to read. I want to sign this. But if you've studied it and you put it's like I said, the cliff notes, a synopsis, a summary of it in a fun way people can remember. You will know. Leases. This is, you know, I see that you have, you know, people that have solar panels. So did you lease? They're like, oh, none of that is available in this particular property. This section is about tidewaters. No, I wish you had beachfront property, but you don't. Like, why do you say? Because there's places in Texas water touches.
Yeah,
You're like, oh,
the whole
yeah.
coast.
So I say things like that in each part of the contract where they say, this is what this applies. It is my fiduciary responsibility, escrow. No, I don't hold the money in my pocket because then I'll get fired. Okay? It is held at a title office where everything is held. They're like, got it. So I see things where people can understand and have a way to say, okay, this is not super boring and she made it so I can understand it. Because if you can understand, it's called layman's term. You know, I'm not saying we're dumb. It's just people don't talk legal like he does. You know, he can sit there and dish out all the legal terms, and you're like, okay, you just lost me. You know, but how can you say it that it makes sense to them and it makes sense to you? Mm-hmm.
You know, earnest money and termination option, like I was saying in the first one, number 5, and it goes all the way down to number 6. Okay, so everything contained in there is part of this section, and then you have the subsections. So you study it one subsection at a time. Okay, for example, if you want to know what is earnest money besides some kind of money that gets put in the title, you know, I looked it up just for fun. I already know it, but I looked it up just to see what it says.
What do you say?
You can look it up. Okay? Because if I tell you, you know, okay, you know, and it's not just that. Even if you don't get the book, you can Google it. You can Google it and then just look for look for the link that's actually from a legal source, not just any link. You know?
Just Google or Alexa.
Yeah. Like that, you know, and then you see when you understand what the purpose of it is, the rest starts making sense. When you come into a certain word, you're like, well, I'm curious, what does that really mean? Like escrow agent. I'll probably look up escrow agent just to see what the definition of that is. I know it's a title officer.
I had to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because escrow.
Yeah, instead of like, why don't you just call them title officers? You know,
Yeah.
but I want to know what it is. Well, it's holding the money in escrow. It's a separate broker.
There's a special escrow agent that does that.
Mhm.
I know, I didn't really.
Yeah, like that, you
understand
know.
all that, and I-
But when you do that, it's more like a challenge. You know, like what else do I not know that I would like to know? You see? And then, you know, and then you'll start better understanding the document. You see? The termination option, you know, this, I really studied in and broke it down, you know, for me myself, because things also come up with backup contracts. In backup contract, do you need to, if they accept your backup contract, do you need to put earnest money and option right away?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Why? It's not effective yet?
Because you're
If
owning
it's
property.
accepted,
It's an offer.
Yeah.
if it's accepted,
But I'm in
yes.
backup. I'm in backup. Why do I need to
But
pay
you're
the
owning the
option?
property off the market.
Huh?
That's what Federico said.
You see? I don't know, man. Like, well, I just know that you're supposed to do that. Call this dude.
I also know that the option money doesn't go back to you, right?
It doesn't.
If it doesn't close.
Even if you don't get put in primary, you still lose it. Okay? That's just the risk. Now, why? Because you know, I try to think like if I don't know, right? I'm just a regular buyer and the agents tell me, I said, but I'm backup. Why do I need to put this in? I'll put that in whenever I'm primary. So why?
Because
And that-
you're holding the property off the market.
Yeah, well, that's one.
Well, you're not
No.
actually holding.
It's off the market. Look,
Because it's second.
yeah, it's a backup.
They're working on the primary.
Yeah, they're on the primary, but look, here's the thing too, okay? I'll save you a little bit so you don't have to look it up, but I won't tell you everything, so you can go look it up. I'll even leave a book here for you, okay? But don't take it home. Okay.
There's cameras.
In my book, you know, but, okay, because look, some states you can have an infinite amount of backups. They have backup 1, they can have backup number 52, okay? Some states allow that. Texas, you can only have 1 backup, just 1. You can't have 2 backups. You can't have second position. You know, well, there is second position, you know, primary and then second position, you know, but you cannot have a third position, you know. So you're paying for that spot. You're paying to be in second position, second in line. Okay. Option period, termination option. I tell them you are not putting, this will be applied to the down payment if you buy the house. It'll be applied to the purchase price, I should say. You know, not down payment, right? But it's applied to the wholesale. I said, but this is not earnest money. Earnest money is your seriousness, to show that you are earnest, honest. That's how you can remember, right? I'm earnest, honest person, so I'm putting this as class. I'm buying in to play this game, like a poker game, right? You can't play unless you buy in.
Ante up.
Ante up. Okay? You see, bigger the house, more ante you need to put, right? Option period or termination option, you're buying time. That's what it is.
So did you say, if they do sell it to the primary, the second contract, earnest money, you lose?
No, earnest money goes back.
Back to
But option you lose.
okay, like I thought you said that you would lose it.
You
The
lose
option.
Yeah, you lose
Option money, oh, okay.
And that's
But
just
not
for
the earnest
keeping
money,
you in
okay,
second
'cause
place.
Just for keeping you in second place.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So-
Things have changed, I don't know.
And yeah, and the reason why is because, you know, some people say, and I'll tell them, you know, you gotta think of it like this. Like, 'cause I have a buyer right now that's been in second position for months. Months, man, this guy.
Really?
Okay, poor guy.
Patient.
Yeah, he's because there ain't nothing else. Oh, that poor guy. But he's still waiting. It's been like, what, maybe 6-7 months now, and he's still back on.
Okay, so
Good.
why is he on backup? I mean, that primary has.
There's issues with the primary, with title. Yeah. Things like that happen.
So with that, does he need to keep with option money? Keep
No,
going?
not keep putting in option. You have to keep extending,
Oh.
you know, or if you know it's gonna be a big issue, just put a year, year date. You can extend for 5-15 years if you want. There's no limit. There is no limit. Look it up. If you find it, I'll be impressed. But there is no limit. You can put. There has to be an end term to everything. It is contract law. There has to be a end limit to every contract, and it has to be within reason. There's a reason why, and I think it was a Japanese that did it. I can't remember. I'll have to look back. But they always do 99 years. If it's going to be a very long-term lease, they won't go 100 because 100's considered over. Like it might as well just be.
considered it forever.
Yeah. So they do 99-year leases. Like Japan, there was a case with Japan. I know that because I read it in the law book with the United States that they leased like some property or something, and it was for 99 years, and it's actually coming up on expiration or renewal. Then, I can't remember what it was.
Okay, they
Yeah.
leased it though. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was a lease.
sale.
Yeah, it wasn't a sale.
Oh.
No, a sale. The termination on the sale is a closing.
Yeah,
Okay?
and I mean, that's what I'm saying, how long can you last there on a sale? I mean, so if you have a contract, a primary contract and the backup,
Mm.
I mean, that backup can wait until it's yes or no that,
So if you notice in your backup, if you go, you know, get the addendum for it, the addendum to backup contract, and read it and study it. But really study it. That's what I'm saying. Don't read it when you need to fill it out. Read it to study, to like on your spare time. Like if you're sitting watching a movie, instead read your forms because it's part of your job. And when you do it that way, you'll discover the words will start jumping out at you because you're not frustrated and I need to fill this in now so I can submit it. That's what's the frustrating part of it. That's where agents make mistakes. And then that's when agents get complacent and they do copy and paste from the previous deals. You see? And some brokers, like she said, that's how she got trained. The broker helped her with the first deal and said, here you go, this is your model. And you model your other deals after this deal here. You know, and just change the words. But brokers like that, you know, not saying anything good or bad about it, but brokers that train that way, or anybody that trains that way, you're just training to be in a factory assembly line. You know, just all you need to do is just make sure you get the sales price right. And they'll say, well, how many days for survey or option? Well, the last one I always put 5. I always just put 5 days. You know, and this, you know, options usually that, right? But in other stuff, survey or objection days, well, the last one I always just put 3. You know, but are you really understanding what you're putting in? Yeah, why? Why are you choosing those days? Or why are you doing this? You know, and I get it. Sometimes it's like, well, you don't really need to learn all that. But the more you learn on the tools that you're using, now, where are you going? Class ain't over.
No, it's not, but I gotta go. Thank you.
If we're on the spot, it's like, oh my God.
Lock the door.
Dang, the pressure.
It's gonna be a boy.
What's your got? Unlicensed activity. Okay. So, that's all right. Just close it and bring us that check. You know, I'll deal with the complaint later. But when you learn it like that, your confidence will show. Like now, when I do contract presenting or somebody asks me something, I'm not afraid of anyone. Or inspections is the same way. I studied the engineering. I studied the building science. I have all the certificates to prove it, above and beyond it. I have so many thick code books and building science books that I don't need to read any of that. The state just says if an outlet doesn't work, just report it that it doesn't work. That's all I have to do. That's all any inspector has to do. I'm not an electrician, but I wanted to learn. So I know how electricity works. Plumbing, simple. Water, no leak, plumbing, good. That's all that is, you know. But, you know, roofing, how is it really installed? How is a structure really supported? You know, what is the engineering science behind it? And then the thing is that when I go, it kind of works against me because I don't like buyers going to the inspections because they want to keep trying to bother me. But the way I explain it, the agents always want them to go because I basically close the deal for them. You know, because when the buyer said, well, huh?
Can you go to ours?
Yeah, you know, it'd be nice, right? You know, and make sure that they all close. But, you know, but they see little cracks in the ceiling and it freaks them out because they don't understand it. But to me, I'm like, dude, you know, I could say that's no big deal. Don't worry about it. And how would they feel like, wow, can you explain a little bit more? Why is it not a big deal? Good dude, I just told you. Do you not trust me? I just told you it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Where's that confidence gonna be at? It's gonna be in the toilet, right? They're not gonna have it. But I explain them, look, let me explain how structures are, where your load-bearing walls are, why physical science plays a part in this. Now, so remember in high school we took physical science, you know, for every force there's a reaction, for every action there's a reaction, thermodynamics, all that stuff, and I started explaining it without getting too technical, and they're like, oh, I got you, I see what it is now. I said, because you have part of the wall pushing here, you get little cracks. I said, but also remember, this building is 80 years old, it's not going nowhere. And they're like, oh, okay, no problem. And then move on. And I see the agent in the background like, hallelujah, you know, and I'm like, how about a referral? But anyways, you know, you see what I mean? When you study it like that, the confidence will radiate. It's just like if you have a doctor or a lawyer, you go and you see your doctor and you're fine, dude, don't worry about it. But it hurts. I just told you you're fine, dude, stop crying. It'll go away in about 3 to 5 days. And if it doesn't, well, go to the emergency room, man, what's the problem? You know, and you're gonna be like, what are you gonna remember? He could be the world's greatest doctor. It's true, it's not a big deal. You just have a little muscle weight. You might have just strained it. But if he doesn't take the time to explain it, what are you gonna remember? He was an asshole doctor.
I need a new doctor.
I need a new doctor. But he could be top Harvard law or Harvard medical graduate. You know, what? What are you laughing at?
I'm pumped.
Oh. All right. So, but you see? Huh? But does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You see? You know, I mean, he could be the greatest doctor out there, but if they don't take the time to it in your mind, you know, he did you a disservice. You see? So that's why, you know, when you have that confidence, I fully understand these documents. You know, and if I get stumped somewhere on there, I'll get my books back out.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Or if I don't have my book with me all the time, I'll Google it. You know, because I'll send you the links for all the legal for Texas and all that stuff. You know, I'll skip a little bit down here because we're gonna start running out of time. Title policy. I always kind of struggle with title policy stuff because I said, you know what, that's title policy. That's title officer's job. They do all that stuff. Okay? But I wanted to learn it more. So, you know, the books, the dictionary stuff, all that, it, like I just told you, it does explain about title stuff. But I wanted to know, why is it covered? What are the exemptions? What the shortages in area mean? And all that. And I did a quick Google search. If you just Google shortage in area, and in Texas now, okay? You have to make sure you get in Texas because every state has differences. It's called Texas National Title. And they are incredible on what their website explains about this. I mean, I read it and my mind was like, it was so cool. You know, remember, you only use 10% of the brain, so that 90% was really pumping. Okay? But it makes sense. I don't even know if that makes sense. But you see, just read instead, because if you just read this, you're like, okay, I kind of get it, but it seems like there's some stuff missing, you know? So when I read all that, then it makes perfect sense. Now I understand what shortages in area is. Perfectly.
That was very hard for me.
Yeah, like I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, and why not? You know, and if you check even that title company, the Texas National Title, I don't know where, I think they're in Houston or something, but it even tells you on number 8, if you check will not be amended or deleted from title, it says you better be very careful. Even from the legal department, it says you better be very careful on that because we're not going to cover shortages in there. So make sure that you have and it says extensive conversation with your client. So I'm like, well, I'm never checking that box, you know. But you see, reading that, because if you just read it here, you're like, nah, no big deal. You know, I don't want to pay for shortages in area. Seller doesn't want to pay. We'll just check. Don't include it. But do you understand
What you're getting yourself
into? You see, and that's what comes with further research, with further understanding of what it is. What can the consequences be?
Well, and also when we bring in the title officers and they explain what they do and with the Schedule C and Schedule B of your title policy, who remembers all of that? Or are we just excited that we're going to get a meal?
I don't even remember. You know, I mean, to me, you know, I like
because
they do.
They give you all the books. I have the dental stuff.
Yeah, they do a good job explaining. But literally, when I said that person presented our office, I don't even remember. And she'll be like, "Don't you remember? It's your own office." You remember? And I go, "Hey, what did they bring for lunch?" Then I'll remember. Then I'll be like, "Oh, they brought those cookies. Oh, I remember that. I remember the cookie, but I don't remember the voice or the person." You see? But it's not an insult, and it's not saying, well, I'm stupid and I'm not listening. It's just, when you're hearing it, you know, you're going to daydream. Or you're going to get off topic a little bit. Your phone's going to get a text. Or you're busy listening, but then you're also thinking, as I'm continuing, or any teacher is continuing to move in the lesson, you're like, what was he saying about that last part? And then all of a sudden you pause, but the movie is still playing. You see? And then when you push play again, you're behind.
But it's because we don't do that every day, right?
Well, yeah, because you also don't do it every day. So, you know, I took a while off from doing real estate. I was doing inspections. I was focusing on moving to El Paso. I mean, moving to Las Cruces. Right? That's where I was going to move to. That's why I moved over there, my business. But then we got back in this. I had to go back and refresh on this stuff. You know, and it's normal. It's natural like that. You know, I bet you if you got back in a truck right now, you'll know. It'll come back to you quick, but at first you'll be like, all right, let me remember this stuff. You know, it's not just daily, every day. You know, so that's why it's a constant refresher. And not sit there and read the whole contract. What I do is section by section. Today I'm going to, because then if you do it all the time, you're going to burn yourself out. You know, you'll be like, you know what, I'll learn this when I get a deal. I mean, I need money.
I think there has to be, when you get a deal, but I think we also have to change our mindset. You know, there's no consequence. You know, it's kind of like, and I'm learning this because I'm having to teach and it just engages you. When my students realized they weren't going to pass my class, they started to read.
And I've always said that. You know, I went and did a class at the college. You know, and I'm like, all you have to do is read. But students, you know, and I didn't tell her students, but students in general are like electricity. Electricity is lazy. You can get it energized, but electricity is lazy. Electricity wants to always find the quickest way to the ground. That's how electricity works. And the way to get it to power stuff is you have to manipulate it to get it moving. That's why it can be dangerous, right? I said, but because I'm the same way. You know, in high school, I run and gun high school by doing it the lazy way. You know, I bet I can pass that exam without even reading that chapter. Like, it was a challenge to do it. And then I got put in honors classes, and that quickly changed. After getting back like the 20s and zeros or whatever, and the teacher saying, this class is not for you. I was like, uh-oh. Either I get thrown out or I better read. And all I did was like, all right, let me try this reading stuff. You know, and now I would read at home, right? And then I go in, well, because we had daily quizzes, honors classes, right? And I started passing. And then the teacher was like, what are you doing? Because she was at first, she was like, you're a little stupid. I think you're copying somebody. You know, but no, I told her, I'm just reading. And it works. You know, you actually learn. You see? So that's why I'm like, it's not hard. All you have to do is read. And sometimes you have to read into it. Like the contract, just reading the contract, you're not going to learn. You have to read into it, do more research. That's why your real estate courses give you the foundation to not get in trouble and to do it in accordance to state law, but they don't teach you the real fundamentals. That's why there's other books like this. This is basic. This is a basic contract book. Okay, I didn't bring the other ones. I have, like, her course, she's teaching contract law, right, at the community college. And when she had her book, when she came from the college, when they gave her a text, I thought she had my book. I said, hey, what are you doing with my book? Because it's the same book I already read, and I have both versions of it. You see, and that's what she's teaching there. But you see, that's the point is, you know, it's how to get more knowledge. Not just the bare basic. You can do fine with just bare basics. I'm not saying you're not qualified if you don't read more, because you are. State license says you're qualified. You're competent to do it. I said, but to really excel in the job, no matter what you do, you know, no matter if you decide this is not the job for me and I want to do anything else. Car salesman, it's not just filling out the documents to buy the car. They have to learn the cars, right? They go to courses to learn what each car does and all the features of that car. You see? Truck driving, you gotta learn, if you want to be good at that, you gotta learn that machine. How it operates, how it works. You know, all that, and that makes you a better conductor.
And I think what's the skin in the game too, you guys. If you were up against, you're gonna get a $12,000 commission, and the buyer's gonna be between you and another person. And one of the specifics is they want you to explain the contract. Are you prepared to explain the contract? And it's gonna be between you and the other person. Who are they gonna pick?
Easy way, how I did it too, where I can kind of stump myself, because I have pretty high confidence. And I'm like, well, I know it, man. I'll just read it and I'll understand, because legal texts come easy to me, because I read it so much. But what I do is I'll explain it to myself. Not out loud, because I don't talk out loud. But if it works for you, it works. And you can say, okay, well, you know what, here, you know, objections, you know, section D, objection, and then I'll summarize. Because when I explain the contract, I don't read it to them. I'm not reading to grade school kids. You know, that I'm not gonna, because you'll bore the hell out of them. They'll be like, when's this gonna be done? You know? And you're not gonna say, okay, follow along with me and I'm gonna read it to you. No, I summarize. Now say, you can always read it. If you have more questions, you can call me. You know, or if you want to review, I always tell them, you want to review it first and then I'll review it for you, or we can just do it together. You know? And then you summarize it. But to summarize, you have to know it. It's like doing a book report on a book. You're not going to do a book report this thick. It's going to be maybe five pages or so on a 500-page book. You know, but to summarize it, you have to know the whole text. You see?
Unless you cheat it up and you buy the clip notes.
Well, yeah, you know, but then You know, but also, okay, fine, let's say that to do that. You know, you cheated,
people do it.
you cheated up, you get a 95, you're like, hey, objective's done. I passed the course. But how are you gonna feel? You know, for me, I'm gonna be like, well, yeah, well, I paid for that A, but I'm really coming out of there empty-handed. You know, it's like when our students were, you know, they wanted her to make it a little easier and give them some answers. And I said, you know, yeah, okay, but you're in college, you're paying to learn. You're paying to receive that education. I said, and learning legal stuff is pretty difficult for a lot of, even cops had a hard time with legal. We had students that would, or cadets that would fail the police academy because they just couldn't grasp legal talk. Medical for me is pretty tough. You know, I mean, I'm not very savvy with medical stuff. I just know it hurts or it doesn't hurt, and I look good or I look bad. You know, I mean, that's about it, the extent for medical with me, because that doesn't interest me. You see? Almost 12, yeah, it's already 12. But you know, the rest I'm gonna say, it's kind of the same. It's just repetitive. You know, it's studying like title notices. What is abstract or title policy? You know. And you know, like property associations, things like that. It even tells you. So when I see things like this, as I'm reviewing and kind of reading the contract, this whole part a little bit higher, can't scroll it, and then to a little bit down here, there's kind of nothing, right? And you're just like, well, there's nothing there. I don't need to fill in nothing. I just need to check this box, right? That's mostly here, right? In Las Cruces, it's over here because almost every house is an association. Right? But here you're like, no, nah, it's not association. If you ever do need to check, you're like, uh-oh, well, what does this mean now? All of a sudden there is, but it's, now I need to read it, right? And you don't want to be in that point. Okay, you want to know it. Okay, you want to know it. So looking it up, you know, and it even tells you when you see things like this, you know, Texas Property Code. This is section 5 and subsection .12. Okay, you can look that up. All you have to do is click on your mouse and just highlight this, Google, and it'll take you to a state website. And it'll explain everything about that property code. And set subsection by subsection. And then when you learn all that, then you come back and read. Huh?
There's a reason
Yeah.
for the madness.
You know, it said that because they're not going to put the whole property code. This will be 5 pages long just for this section. I just read that property code last night just to see if it works. You know, so I can tell you. You know, but then when you read that and you come back and read this, it will make perfect sense to you. And then you'll really understand why do they ask for that? Why are the assessment fees there? Instead of just see section 207 of this property code. It makes the owner that they have the right to request the documents for a homeowners association. But they're not going to tell you the full detail of it. But when you understand the mechanical operations of it, then when you read this and you can explain even more. You know, I know that some say, well, I'm not an attorney. If they want better explanation, they need to talk to an attorney, just like it says in the bottom of the form over here. That's not what you're doing. You're explaining it. You're not telling them different routes, what can happen. You know, if they say, like for example, the earnest money part, and then we'll kind of stop it because where is that part? I was gonna actually say something about that. This way.
I haven't touched your computer.
But you know, like if you're gonna explain something legal, it's not being lawyer action. It's literally telling them what happens if they don't deliver the earnest money. You see, or what happens if you don't deliver the option fee.
Is it before? Can it be delivered after 5?
What does it say? The termination notice?
Mm-hmm.
What does it say?
Bye.
By 5.
No, yeah.
Remember, see, if you read it, if you read the contract in its entirety, you will notice that option period is the only one that has a time. And it is the only one that is not governed by, just Scroll a little bit more down, but here it is. It's not a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday. See, because you are buying time. That's what option is. You're paying for them to grant you the unrestricted right. Seller grants the buyer unrestricted right to terminate. You see, you're buying that time and that right. That's why it's not refundable. You know, unless
So make sure that when you're executing the days, you're taking on a Friday if it's Saturday, Sunday. Also
You know,
counts.
and then also remember that Trek now has that 2-day rule for responding. Remember, brokers and supervisors always had to respond to another broker within 2 days. You know, so you know how they say, well, that broker doesn't respond to me. They have to. They're required to, or you can submit a complaint. It used to be broker only. Now it's all licensed people. So, all brokers, agents, whatever, and it has to be to a party, not just some common person. You know, now if you have like a listing or something, well, it has to be a party. You know, a party to a transaction that you're involved in, not just the common public. Okay, I mean, you're not a slave to the world. But they say, you know, I looked into that because I said, what about if you go on vacation? What about if I go on a cruise? You know, and I literally have no cell phone service. So in my mind, because that's how you learn law, by challenging it. You see? And I said, well, what about if I want to go out of town or something? And that's why I have 2 phones, business and personal. I'll turn one off, you know? But the law specifically says it doesn't matter. You will answer or they can disappear. So how do you remedy that? Partner with somebody. And the response doesn't mean you have to solve the problem or you have to engage. A response can simply mean message received. And that's it. That is a response. Because when it said, I looked it up. Response. Right? And I said, okay, and legal now, okay? And I looked on the real estate commission, since they kept getting that question, what constitutes a response? I already knew it. But when they posted it, it literally said the same thing. A response is just that. Respond. Receive. Okay. That's it. Time reset. You know, and the agent can say, you're not answering my question. Don't need to answer it. I just acknowledge that I received your inquiry. You see? So that's why but you see, now you think like, when you read into it and really read the text as written, law can be manipulated, but text can't. That's why law is interpreted. It's not like math where it's linear. Numbers are numbers. You see? But legal stuff can be interpreted in different ways. So that's why you need to, look, interpreting legal text. That's what it says. You see? So when you learn it like that, you can really understand the different avenues they can be. Because some people say, well, you didn't respond to me. And most people think a response means to engage, to solve, to answer the question. But that's not what response. It doesn't say resolve the problem.
Does that count for the emails that they send and then they answer back, I'm on vacation or something?
Automated responses, you know what? That's a good one. I'm gonna look that up. I'm actually gonna look, but you see, look, challenge. You know, challenge accepted. I'm gonna look that up. But I don't think it does.
Yeah.
Because automated responses, you know, common sense says no.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't guarantee that they received it. And then it also says the agent or any license holder must respond. It doesn't say must have a method of response. That's interpretation. See, method or you know, you have to have something. It says that they need to respond, but not through an electronic device, not to have an automated system or something. So I don't think that would count. That's my interpretation. But I'll still look it up and see if there's a loophole. The agents that put the automatic responses, saying I'll be out of the office until this. But the way you could get saved with it is I'll be out of the office. If you need further assistance, call this agent. That's what I get a lot. Property management companies do that a lot too. You know, if you email them, you know, and then they'll say we're closed on weekends. But if you have an emergency or you're one of our renters, call this number. You know, like that. You see? Huh?
If there's an emergency, call 911.
Yeah, and that's it, you know? I mean, some people say that, you know, like, when I was a cop, we said, because we couldn't, like, have our cell phones, not supposed to be using our, and it was flip phones at the time, smart didn't. And one cop was sarcastic, and he told the sergeant, he goes, what about my wife has an emergency? He's like, call 911. He goes, that's you. You're literally 911. You know, but anyways, you know, okay, but, I mean, that's pretty much it, you know. I mean, just go through it, you know, like, I mean, stuff like smart devices and all that. I mean, there's a lot of issues that happen with that, you know, but you need to know it, you know. Just think, parts of this, like possession and all that, that basically answers your questions, you know, that you might have just by reading it and understanding those paragraphs. And if you have, you know, like special provisions, the state added a lot more legal language to that than we used to have. Special provisions used to be a free for all. I'll write whatever I want. Yeah, it was just all it had was just the box, and then it had, you cannot use this unless if there's another form that you can use for it. Like if there's an addendum or amendment that can be used for this, don't use special provisions. That's all it used to say. And now they put that really big thing right there, you know, prohibited from practicing law. You should not add or delete, okay? Because remember, practicing law is when you control the circumstances of it, okay? The author of it, and that was in this book here, the author of the forms is a state. And whoever is the author is the one that's legally responsible for it. That's why the state makes you just fill in the blanks. State licensing gives you the authority to fill in the blanks without actually practicing law. That's how they were able to manipulate, because I wanted to learn that, well, why is it that we're not practicing law when we still control the outcome from a contract? But the terms are already dictated in the contract. You see, so that's how it's changed. Purchase agreements is between client and client, buyer, seller, buyer, not agents. Agents are not a party to the contract. Where you are a party is buyer's rep agreements, listing agreements. There's where you're a party to the contract. Those you can change because you are a party to. Okay? Now remember, but if you're gonna change, you need to tell us first, particularly her, because it's broker. It's broker-client representing agreement, right? You know, you are broker associates, not associate brokers, broker associates. Okay? Do you have anything else to add? Because we're already over. Oh yeah, pretty good. But did this help you?
Yes.
I hope so.
Very good.
You know, yeah, like I said, it's not a, you know, hey, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna study this all day. Just a little bit. You know, I hope it did come to that. You know, the rest of the week, all I'm gonna do is perfect this 1 to 4, and it's not just paragraphs 1 to 4, right?
You know what's funny? I was helping Alex a little bit with the contract portion, so I was reading quite a bit. And I was starting to understand, but I was like, okay, I really got to read more. But he was like, he did the exact same thing. So when you submit an offer, it's only this first page, right? And I was like, dumbass. Like,
Who would think of something like that?
I know that now.
But yeah, I was like, you know what? I thought the same thing. So that was my whole contract.
But I ain't a dumbass anymore. I am now a smart ass.
Hence, your supervisors and your broker.
Oh
Like, can I do
man.
this by myself?
Yeah, 'cause I was like, oh, it's not very hard to submit an offer. It's just that first page.
But you see, but I promise you, the real estate courses did not teach you that.
Yeah.
They taught you the whole thing.
They did,
You know, but it slips the mind.
Well, no, they didn't explain when you submit an offer, it's the whole thing. They're just explaining the whole contract. But when I hear you're submitting a 1 to 4, So my mind is you're submitting 1 to 4, and I look, that's the first page.
1 to 4.
Right.
Paragraphs 1
Yeah,
to
paragraph. Well, that's gonna be a wait. The rest will be done later.
This is how impactful that was. I was cleaning my garage when he told me that, and I literally stopped and put the broom down and said, I don't think I'm hearing this correctly. I said, what was that again?
He didn't want to tell me.
Yeah, and I said, we're not gonna tell you. This is gonna be our little secret here, you know? But now that he's closing deals every month, he has redeemed himself.
Yeah, at first I thought it was the first page, then we'll get the rest of the contract later. I'm like, I'm done.
The rest of it will be filled in after closing.
Where does he sign?
Oh man.
Well, thank you, everybody. I hope I helped you. You know, I mean, and that's our goal. You know, is to always help you and teach you new things.
Thank you, I never got that.